Dodge this.
This is Sparta!
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Say hello to my little friend! Say what again?
I want to make him an offer again.
Voice is strong,
You talking to me?
Ladies and gents, welcome to the 12th episode of the BTG MovieCast. My name is Stephen Nagel and I'm your host.
And I'm Dean Ravel and I'm your co-host.
Guys, so we do this monthly podcast called the BTG MovieCast where we talk about movies, cinema, TV, whatever you want to call it, like entertainment, essentially, except for reality TV. Fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
So what we usually do is we provide what we've been watching, kind of like recommendations for you guys. We also talk about some industry news or announcements that's been made recently. And then we go into a broader discussion about something to do with film or TV. So you can check out our previous episodes at btglifestyle.com. And this week we've got something a little bit different because it's Oscar fever time. So Dean, what are we doing today?
So what we're doing on the podcast today is looking at the snubs and surprises from the Oscars nominations. This is Oscars month. It'll be taking place on the 26th of Feb. And in the lead up to that, we're doing some Oscar predictions on our blog. But for the most part, for this podcast, we're looking at some of the people that didn't get nominations or some of the people that did and were a little bit surprised that they did. So that's the topic for today's podcast.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, I think we should just get into it.
Let's drive right in.
But yeah, we're going to start this discussion with kind of like what people are talking about surrounding the Oscars.
Yeah. First is the reaction to last year's Oscars, mostly the Oscars So White that took place last year. So essentially what happened is that there was a very noticeable lack of diversity last year, to put it very PC. And the Academy, I think, reacted to that with this year's list of nominations. What we've noticed is that a lot of predominantly black films, to put it loosely, have been nominated. We're looking at films like Fences, Hidden Figures, Moonlight, also acting nominations for a lot of the key people in there, like Denzel Washington, Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, even Naomi Harris as well. So there's a lot of representation for minorities this year in the film categories, especially acting, which is great. I don't feel like black actors and actresses get enough recognition for the work that they do in some of the really, really good films that they're producing.
So I think also like after last year, the Oscars and the Academy as like an institution made some changes and they invited more people into the Academy. So essentially the Academy itself is more diverse, and that's why we're getting more diverse opinions in the voting, and therefore we're seeing better representation. On the other hand, also I feel like while it's a victory, it also feels like a bit of a loss that it had to get to that point in like 2016/2017 where that argument had to be made. It's really sad, but it's good to be where we are now, and I believe fully that everyone nominated in terms of the acting and also the films that are nominated for some of the key categories, they deserve to be there.
Absolutely.
So that being said, we are going to talk a bit about some that surprised us and also some that was snubbed. Possibly.
Absolutely. So let's start with some of the surprises to kind of mention a few. One is Mel Gibson. So Mel Gibson has had a hate relationship with the Academy for a few years now.
And Hollywood in general.
And last year he came out with a film called Hacksaw Ridge, which has been getting a lot of really, really good reviews. And he directed the film. He did an amazing job from the director's seat. But I think a lot of people were a little bit skeptical as to whether or not he'd get a nomination, mostly because of his history with the Academy and Hollywood in general.
So if you don't know, he made some like very bad anti-Semitic jokes and comments like statements, like hateful statements. And a lot of people just didn't react positively at all to that. Rightly so. So he was almost like benched.
Pretty much blacklisted and
and it seems that he's making a comeback, and You know, the one thing you can't deny is that he's a damn talented director. I mean, he also came back with an acting gig
Yeah.
called Bloodfather, which is it just looks terrible. It looks like it's in like the class of Steven Seagal. But his direction, on the other hand, damn, this guy can direct, and I mean, he's proven it before.
Exactly. With
So,
Braveheart.
Exactly,
Yeah.
he's an Oscar-winning director.
Yeah.
So it's not like he can't do it.
Exactly. And I'm glad that they're actually basing nominations on talent and like actual credibility for this thing. Like, for instance, his direction in Hacksaw Ridge is absolutely amazing. And for them to have snubbed him, for instance, because of his history, or his recent history at least, that wouldn't have been fair, I think.
This brings into discussion another story though, and I mean like this has been spoken about to death, but it's it's the Casey Affleck situation versus the Nate Turner, Parker. What's his name? I don't know the dude's name. Birth of the Nation director, both involved in cases of sexual assault, rape. The Birth of the Nation dude was like an actual rape case, whereas Casey Affleck is like sexual assault or stalking or something. I don't know. But slightly different cases, but it's just weird that the one guy got nominated, is currently nominated, and the other dude is like just completely shafted by the Academy. So I mean, that's something interesting to consider as well.
Correct, yeah. So I mean, there might just be a little bit of favoritism somewhere, but
And Affleck. Let's give him everything.
Yes, correct. So that's definitely a big surprise. Mel Gibson's inclusion. Another one is definitely some films that haven't necessarily gotten the best critical acclaim, but especially from a technical perspective, they've gotten some nominations. We're looking at you, Suicide Squad, for best makeup. Look, we've spoken about this to death. Suicide Squad has got mixed reviews, and that's to put it lightly. For it to get an Oscar nomination. Yes, in the category for best makeup. Yes. But still, that's very surprising. As well as Passengers for best production design and for original score as well.
It's so funny because I know a lot of people who hated Suicide Squad. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I personally did as well.
It was what it was. It was messy. We understand that a company came in and edited the trailer and everyone loved the trailer to bits, so they basically just gave the already cut film to that company to re-edit,
because 1 + 1 = 2.
Exactly. And so obviously it was a bit messy, but you know what, I still enjoyed what was left of it after the director was done. Like what was still left there. So I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed being in that universe. It was fun. It was actually a decent change from what we usually get from the DC cinematic universe. And I like to just shove it in people's faces that it's now Oscar nominated. Like, I love when someone says, like, when someone rolls their eyes and like, oh my god, Suicide Squad, then I like to just like stuff it in their face, like, it's Oscar nominated. And hopefully it wins.
Exactly. We'll, and I mean, on the flip side of that, one of the better comic book films from last year, Deadpool, was snubbed this year for the Oscars, which is also a big surprise because it got some attention or recognition at the Golden Globes, which people see as kind of a almost stepping stone to the Oscars. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's a little bit of surprise there that Deadpool didn't get any sort of award nomination. But, you know, that's to be expected. With the Oscars, the snubs are always really, really noticeable, and it's just something that you have to deal with. The Oscar nominations, if they could nominate everyone, they probably would. But they can't.
But I mean, that's what kind of makes it a novelty. Like it's what makes this award special. The fact that the select few get nominated and then that one person or film wins.
There's a reason why when promoting other films, people will be like Oscar nominee so and so and so.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's actually, it is, and it's a cliche, but it is an honor to be nominated.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's because you beat out so many other people according to the Academy.
And you know what? I think that there was like some kind of wishful thinking that Deadpool would get nominated. I mean, that campaign came out for it essentially, like a very small little campaign where Ryan Reynolds basically tweeted something about, like, you know, getting Deadpool in for Best Picture nomination or whatever. There's a little bit of underhandedness in that. It's kind of like, you know, like, I'm getting this attention just that, you know, maybe it could happen. Yeah. But, like, I just don't see, when I think Deadpool, I just don't think Oscar winning. But then I guess you could say the same thing for Suicide Squad. Exactly
true. And on the flip side of that, I'm glad you brought that up, because then you get a film that you think would be nominated for Best Picture and doesn't. An example of that would be Silence, which I know is a film that you really enjoyed.
Okay, so what happened is our previous podcast, we did a top 10 list of films for 2016. And my list was completely trashed after I watched a bunch of the other Oscar nominated films.
Correct,
I watched a few since making that list. I mean, I watched Fences, I watched Moonlight, I watched Lion. I would say Manchester by the Sea, but I didn't love that as much as most people did. And then I watched Silence, and my response was this: silence. Because I was just in awe.
That was terrible.
But beautiful.
But beautiful at the same time.
So like, I was just in awe by this movie, the way it's directed, the cinematography. It's nominated for best cinematography,
Correct, yeah.
which I think it fully deserves. I can't wait to watch this movie again and again.
A lot of
It's
people.
long. It's a slow burn, but I will watch it again.
A lot of people are saying that they're really surprised by the lack of awards that has been nominated for. I mean, look at Martin Scorsese didn't even get nominated for best director, which is another snub.
That is my. I don't understand. The only reason that I can think that would happen is the time that it was released. It was released at a very kind of awkward spot.
Sure.
It was kind of like this weird place where nobody functions correctly between Christmas and the first few weeks of January.
Yeah.
It got like a broader release during that period of time. So I think it's just like it was lack of exposure at the right time. And I think that's like a lot of people had already kind of rounded off their voting for the Oscars and so on.
True.
So I just don't think it had enough time to gain that traction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it as well, you know, from a acting perspective, there's been so many snubs. One key one for me, and one that I noticed almost immediately, was Amy Adams, who stars in 2 films that have been getting a lot of Oscar nominations: Arrival and Nocturnal Animals. And she didn't get a nomination for either one.
You know, I mean, like, I know people are like, there's been a lot of effort made for diversity and inclusion in that, but this is one woman that actually, you know, she actually deserved that nomination, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Nocturnal Animals, that movie just made me cringe. It made me, dude, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I could not watch some of those scenes.
Yeah.
I couldn't. And that hasn't happened to me in years.
Yeah.
A movie hasn't done that to me in forever.
Yeah.
I was so freaking worked up by what was happening on screen.
The scene where they get pulled over up on the side of the road, and then there's a whole altercation with the guys in the other car. I was like, when is this gonna end? Because I'm not
just drags on and
oh,
on and on.
it was terrible.
Yeah. And while she's not necessarily in those scenes, her reaction is also kind of like a surrogate for the audience.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Provides kind of that vantage point.
Yeah, and it's a good thing we're mentioning Nocturnal Animals, because Aaron Taylor Johnson, who actually won Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes for Nocturnal Animals, did not get nominated. Neither did Jake Gyllenhaal, which is a travesty because Jake Gyllenhaal is brilliant.
I don't understand why this guy just never gets nominated for anything.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He is just one of, if not the best actor of our time currently. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else who is delivering brilliant performances consistently.
Yeah.
Regardless of the material. Brilliant performances consistently throughout.
Yeah.
Taking the character in the script or whatever and adding so many layers to that character.
Yeah.
Every time you watch him, it's like a masterclass in acting. You know, and he's come a long way, and I think it's about time he gets a bit of recognition.
And I mean, another big one for us, and it ties into the whole kind of diversity issue, is that Taraji P. Henson didn't get nominated for either Best Supporting Actress or Best Actress for Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say that she, in a sense, almost made that film.
Yeah.
Yes, Octavia Spencer and Janelle Monáe are also very prominent.
Yeah.
And there on the poster, it's 3 black women. It's fantastic. Octavia Spencer got nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
I don't understand this.
I don't understand how she would get a heads up and not
Taraji
P. Henson. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't make sense because I think Taraji was brilliant. That scene where she comes back soaking wet because she had to run to go to the bathroom, and then she has that whole scene in front of all these white people at NASA. That for me was just absolutely amazing. I would have given her a nomination for that alone.
Yeah.
And she did not get any kind of recognition, at least for the Oscars, for that performance, which is quite sad, actually.
Sad. I found it actually surprising that Octavia Spencer was nominated for that at all. You know, her character was strong and decent, and she portrayed it quite well, but if you were to compare kind of her impact in that film compared to Taraji P. Henson. It's minimal. I'm not trying to downplay because I know it's based off like real women.
Yeah.
These are real women.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like it was kind of happening simultaneously in the background. Like you saw this progress and change happening within that particular company at the time, or institution at the time. But leading the way was Taraji P. Henson's character's story, and then kind of like parallel to that with the other two main characters.
Very true.
So yeah, I mean that's a bit of a sad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, very, very true. Another thing that we're going to bring up, and we spoke about it earlier, kind of controversy, Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
It's been picked up for cinematography, but not really for anything else. And we obviously alluded to the fact that there was some controversy with regards to Birth of a Nation and the people involved in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's also definitely a big snub, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, like I watched this film. I mean, a lot of people try and write these slave stories off as torture porn nowadays.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just a smack in the face of anyone who went through that back in those days, and like the kind of legacy that's left behind as a result of those types of actions.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like a lot of the things that are being portrayed in there are not being emphasized. That like that's how it was.
Yeah.
So it's a brutal look at life as a slave, and it's also a very interesting look at the human spirit and at rebellion. And it's just, and I mean it's beautifully directed and it's a beautiful looking film. So it's kind of sad that all of that is kind of mired by this massive controversy.
Yeah.
But you know, that's just what it is apparently.
Yeah. Very true.
Unless you Casey Affleck, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all good. Then it's all good,
then
fam.
Then it's all fine. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to look at some animated sort of talk considering
That segue, though.
That segue.
Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Animation.
You know, you got to switch gears. You got to give them the light. And one film that was released last year was a much anticipated Finding Dory, which was also, you know, a relatively good film. Yeah. But a lot of people expected that it would get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Film, and it didn't.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Snubbed as fuck.
Yeah, but to be fair, there were a lot of animated films who did get it right, like 100%. We're looking at Kubo and the Two Strings.
My word. I mean, this was also in my top 10.
Exactly.
And this year, I think it took them about 5 years to make.
Yeah.
That's what the CEO of Leica said.
Yeah.
The craftsmanship that went into that, and the detail and the kind of blood, sweat and tears, it's all on the screen.
And it was, but in terms of animation and the work that went into it, you know, stylistically and everything, absolutely brilliant film. Same can be said for Zootopia as well, which I watched, and it was, I enjoyed it. It was start to finish a really good film. You know, it had a lot of good voice acting as well, and the story behind it was really nice, as well as the other Oscar nominated film Moana, which also got a lot of Oscar nominations for various other aspects, like I know song as well. Yeah. So, you know, and that's been making a lot of big waves, no pun intended, for that. So I mean, Finding Dory, yes, it was a good film, and yes, it was highly anticipated. People love Finding Nemo. So it only made sense for it to be in the running.
I mean, it was one of the highest grossing films at the time as well.
Exactly. So from animation, we go to foreign films. Now, one of the best things about Oscars is that it has so many various diverse categories. And it does show some love for foreign films, or to some extent, it doesn't show any love to foreign films. And us, from a very biased perspective, Nume Scoli, which also made out both of our top 10 lists for
Call Me Thief,
which made our top 10 list, did not get nominated. There was talk about it going into the running, but it didn't eventually.
It was South Africa's official submission for the Oscars 2017. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Oscars just looked at it and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, guys." You know, if I were to look at this like impartially, like completely objectively, I feel like a lot of our films in South Africa that have risen to prominence have been somehow related to a form of gangsterism. Yeah. And, you know, thuggery. Or
apartheid or AIDS.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of those three.
I feel like almost like the world wants more. I know it's gonna sound really kind of jaded, but more positive stories coming out of our. Even though this is a very positive story, it's
Yeah.
about the beauty and the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
It's still kind of entrenched in that very realistic world. It's not that I'm trying to discount or downplay that guy's story.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Academy might want to see something different coming out of South
Maybe
Africa.
something a little bit more upbeat. Maybe if we made La La Land, that could have worked.
Yeah, who knows?
Possibly.
Who knows?
Oh, The Handmaiden as
The
well.
Handmaiden,
Yes.
which was my original
Yes.
best film of 2016.
Correct.
I actually changed that to Silence because I watched Silence and I was
Yeah.
like, wait, this is
Hey.
actually my favorite film.
So Handmaiden bumped to number 2 then.
Yep.
Okay.
It's still on the list, but you know, this film is so beautiful. It's so well put together. I'm not even sure if it was actually submitted officially.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that's like I don't know. Maybe that's some research I need to do.
That's very true.
But if ever a film was gonna get a nod, obviously the thing is, this category is so broad and there's so many films being submitted because literally every country around the world is saying this is our chance to get on an international platform because Hollywood is like internationally renowned. So to get a nod from the Oscars is like the biggest thing for a different country.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so much competition, and I mean that's probably why these two films, Numeskoli and The Handmaiden, were not included.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have loved to see that film not only make it on, but possibly win.
Yeah.
Even I wouldn't even mind if it won over Numeskoli.
No, definitely. I think I've watched it as well, and it's absolutely brilliant in terms of the way that it's portrayed, this whole story, and one of the things that like Korean films and you know, especially films that's coming out from Asia. I mean, you think of Old Boy as well.
Yeah.
Same director. It's a fantastic film, and it's one of those things where they actually do it really, really well. So I was surprised that it wasn't nominated, but like you said, maybe it wasn't even submitted.
Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe that didn't mean anything to them. Maybe they knew that they're hot shit, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I mean, it's been getting a lot of play globally as
Yeah.
well, just because it's a fucking great film.
Yeah, absolutely. We totally recommend it. So yeah, definitely you can check that out.
Cool.
And to end things off, we're gonna go with some kind of reactions to previous award shows and what's been happening, and kind of see whether or not it might be happening with Oscars as well. And La La Land has been getting a lot of the awards nominations and awards wins. Damien Chazelle brought out, and it's actually a really good film. We both enjoyed it. It's a very upbeat film. It's very nostalgic in terms of it makes you think of Singing in the Rain and Casablancas and the kind of old Hollywood kind of style. And people don't make films like
And
that
Ingrid
anymore.
Bergman shows up in that film like a million times. She's always like on a corner in on a billboard. I just couldn't help like spotting her face like a million times.
Absolutely.
Clearly Damien Chazelle has like something for her.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's actually a really good film, and at its core, it's actually a really deep film. It's got a message about going into this kind of world where it could make or break you, and striving to actually get there.
You know, it's something I've been actually struggling with in terms of that, that subtext of the film is, it's good to have that conversation about, it's difficult out here. It's difficult to live for your dream, and you have to go through a lot, and you might get rejected. But if you think about it, those are like two A-list actors, and like a director that's basically directed a film that's nominated for 14 Oscars by the age of 30.
Yeah.
So if you think about who's actually leading this film, it's the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
So it's the cream of the crop talking to the people who may or may not actually make it at the end of the day. So I find there's a certain irony in that.
Yeah.
It's like Emma Stone is like she's hot shit. She can literally get any gig she wants in Hollywood right now. But she's portraying this girl who's getting rejected as fuck. And meanwhile, there's thousands of girls who are actually going through that right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to discount. Maybe she went through that when she was starting out.
Possibly,
Who knows?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it's likely that not all of them,
Yeah.
those people out there, are going to actually make it.
Exactly. And it's good that you actually brought that up, because I kind of feel that with it getting so much critical acclaim and awards, there's a slow amount of resentment that's coming in to La La Land, especially when it comes to the Oscars. A lot of people are almost hoping that it won't win as much as what it did. That is the case with a lot of different kind of award shows. When you win, they won so many for the Golden Globes, and now people are hoping that it won't happen again for the Oscars. So there's categories. When we were doing predictions post for the blog, and I spoke to one of our contributors who said that they they predicted that La La Land would win for best. I believe it was best song. No, best score. And they said that hopefully that's the only one that they're going to choose. There is a little bit of fatigue that sets in, even for this Oscar, even for this awards season. So it's interesting to see a lot of people are saying that La La Land is really good, and it is. But does it deserve to win everything? Definitely not.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. I think that wraps up our discussion for today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out our Oscars predictions posts that'll be running on the blog for the lead up to the actual Oscars, and there'll be a roundup piece as well where we'll see who actually won our predictions game, essentially.
And there's a special prize for that person.
Exactly. So myself, Nagel, Karen Ann, Welby Solomon, Tendai Sabindi, Jason Kutsi, and Vernon Cullis, the 6 of us are going to be predicting who we think are going to win for selected categories. Not all of them. We're not like those kind of people. It's only 15. Yeah. Watch the blog btglifestyle.com for more information on those. Have your say as well. Comment and tell us whether or not you think we're hopelessly off. Which films do you think should be our picks? Because we'd like to find out what everyone else thinks about it as well. And then touch base with us after the award ceremony to find out who actually won.
Cool, guys. Thanks again for joining us. As always, you can catch us at btglifestyle.com. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/BTG Lifestyle, and on Twitter at BTG Lifestyle, and Instagram at BTG Lifestyle. You can catch myself, Stephen Nagel, at The Snagel, that's TheSnagel, on Instagram and Twitter.
You can catch me on Twitter at Dino15, at DEENO15, and then on Instagram at Dino Benino. That's at DEENOBANEENO.
Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we hope you have an awesome time.
Peace.
Dodge this.
This is Sparta!
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Say hello to my little friend! Say what again?
I want to make him an